Peace and respect, and welcome to season 2, the season premiere of season 2 of Get Buckets with Coach Gus Gauntlett and friends. I'm kicking off season 2 with an amazing guest whose job is crazy important because he's not just a basketball coach, but he's also the commissioner of the BVAL, that's the Blossom Valley Athletic League. And this man's job is crazy right now, trying to get all the sports back together, coming back post-COVID. This is Bill Murray. Bill, welcome. How are you?
I'm excited. Like I said, this is been itching to draw some plays up back on the basketball because we haven't done anything for months. So I'm excited and ready to go.
Yes. 22 years as a coach at Del Mar, where you also went to school, which I love. I love that story. I'm trying to recreate your story. 16 years as the varsity coach of the women's team there. Really exciting. You have a couple plays to show today. And, you actually inspired the theme, and you're a perfect fit for the theme of season 2. Season 1 was just straight up 10 seconds left. Show me a play to get yourself a bucket. Season 2, I want to see, unique situations, unique defenses, maybe some more ATO plays. So I know you have some stuff to work on against a very unique defense, the box and one, which we'll get into in a second. The floor is yours, Bill. Show us your knowledge. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So with box and ones, obviously what the defense is trying to do is, maybe you have that one player that's just for the high school level, 20 points per game, right? And the one player that you're trying to stop. So teams go box and one, 4 people in a zone, one person just basically denying that best player the ball. And so we ran into this. I mean, a lot of teams do, but we ran into it a few years ago where my point guard, the play I'll draw up actually has the point guard running it, but it could be anybody. The point guard, our point guard was pretty good. She was our best player on the team by far. And the team just decided we played an opponent that said, she doesn't touch the ball. She's not scoring. And so we had a choice to make, right? Like, okay, are we going to deal with that or are we going to make you pay for it? So I actually came up, I got this play from a fellow coach that shared it. And he's like, you will be amazed at how easy it is and how simple it works. Same ideas. My thing is keep it simple, right? We don't need to make all the extra movement, anything extra that's on there that your players aren't really used to could just add more reason why something can go wrong, right? So we tried to keep it simple, and I'm going to show you real quick. This is pretty simple and it's pretty basic. Let me go ahead and jump on here. So I've got it set up here. The red being the defense, that's the box and one. The 2 over here is the one denying. So this is our best, the best player that's getting denied. Like I said, for us, it was actually our point guard getting denied, and this would have been our 2, but we'll set it up this way. So set up box and one, you get really the person you're trying to get the bucket for. It doesn't have to be the 5, but whoever you want is kind of hidden baseline in like that dunker spot. So the first action is when they start it. We just call this X. You'll see why in a minute, because the 4 and the 3 are going to make an X across each other. But the 2 comes across kind of like an Iverson screen, right? I mean, Iverson cut right over the top. Defender's going to come with them. As they're doing that, what we like to do is usually all these eyes start looking this way, like, oh, here's the best player cutting. For some reason, they all look, right? So all these eyes start to look. These 2 will try to set a screen there. They're hedging. They're jumping out, worrying about what's going on, right? So as this goes on, as the 2 crosses across, how we do it is once they cross you, this one comes and sets a screen here. This one comes, sets a screen here. And as that all goes on, the idea of the point guard is they got to really attack this gap and get these 2 to engage. If they can get them to take a step or 2 and really engage, that the play's over. You're going to get it. The idea here, too, is you got to have a player here that can at least look over the defense and see. So as you can see, we set up these screens. 5 gets to pick, but more usually they can come right underneath. They dive right in here, quick over the top, and they get it, go up nice and quick, real quick, right? And we get an easy basket. You look at it and you're like, how simple is that? They can stop it. That's what I thought too. And the first time we started running this, the team was so concerned about this girl not getting her 20 points that they just denied. So this player that would dive inside had like 10 in the first quarter. They continued to stay in it, had like 16 at halftime. Finally, by the third quarter, they got like 20, and they've decided to get out of it. They finally changed their defense. And by that point, we're already up a bunch. So to me, it was pointless of them doing the box and one, like, go ahead and take that player away. We'll just do it this way. So it really depends. Obviously, you're not going to get it, 10 times a game. But if you can get it once, twice, 3 times, that you're making that team pick. You're making that coach and that other team decide. My thing is, it's kind of like a chess game, right? So they go box and one. That's kind of like check. You're not going to get to use your best player. Okay, so we set up this and we go back at them. Check back to you. And if you don't make a change, checkmate, right? That you're just going to keep getting points. So that's kind of the simplicity of that one.
I love it. And watching another team get repeated open layups, it hits you hard, you know? I think the players may even start looking at the coach like, hey, coach, are we going to switch this up? Because it's getting a little frustrating watching a player get, repeated 2-footers.
So that's actually what happened in this specific game was the other players were looking at the coach going, are we going to get out of this? And at that point, they're already down 15-20. And they didn't. They stayed in it till about the end of the third. At that point, the game was over, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
And the best part is the player that I had at the time that was the one getting denied, she was such a team player. She didn't care. Like, she's like, we're up 20. I don't care. I'll sit here and score no points. And she was a great defender. So she just took out her energy all on defense. And she was just so irritated that they were denying her. She just dominated defensively anyway. But so it was a fun one, real simple.
Yeah.
And maybe
also,
later.
There's still I feel like on offense, setting screens against a zone is tend to be more challenging than setting a screen in man-to-man. So it still takes it is a simple play, yes, which I think is really important and great. And your players still have to execute those good double screens down at the block there against the defense.
Yeah, I actually tend to think setting screens against the zone is better because you know where their defense is going to be, right? You know primarily their concept of what they're trying to do. And that's kind of the thing I look at as going into a game where not necessarily box and one, but just a regular 2-3 or a 3-2 or whatever they're doing with traps. If you know ahead of time it's coming and you have time to figure it out, it's almost easier to figure something out because you know it's coming ahead of time, right? The crazy teams are the ones that you don't know that trap's coming and all of a sudden they bust it out. You saw it on no tapes, no scouting, and you're like, what is this? But when you know it ahead of time, it's kind of easy. I've got another one for an end of game too, if you wanted to see that. But
thank you.
You want to go to it now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right, I'll draw this. I went and found this somehow. I haven't used it in months, but we'll draw it up real quick. So the primary idea, let me set it up real quick. And actually, one of your previous guests, Sarah Kulichi, actually, we ran this for her when she was in high school. And she actually won a game in overtime doing this. So she'll actually like it. But I've added an extra wrinkle to it. So what it sets up as is, you guys can see that, right?
Perfect, yep.
Okay, so primarily you want to keep the backside open because that's where you're going to start the action, where we're going to start at least the first part of it to try and get the defense. So this play we call Cincy. Reason why, got it from again, we all steal stuff, right? Stole it from another coach who got it from the University of Cincinnati when Kenyon Martin was there. Oof. And they used to do this for back picks just for alley-oop dunks. So I have not had a girl yet that can dunk, but we're still able to get the backdoor layup. So point guard has it, they swing it to the 2. So the 2's going to get it. As this is going on, the 1's going to come behind. And actually, the 4 we usually have setting up over here. And then as this action happens, they come over just to kind of clear out that backside. This is your shooter. Sometimes we have them run baseline off this screen just to kind of distract everybody, right? They're worried about the shooter coming off the screen. So they come from behind. The 5 steps out. The 2 hands it back to the 1. So now the 1's got it again. And the 2 just sets up the screen and dives over the top. Like I said, they used to throw lobs here for Kenyon Martin just getting dunks. So what we do is we go for this. Believe it or not, this is open. I've seen it used in boys games, girls games. It's open 7, 8, 9 times out of 10. But the few times, or the teams that, especially in our league, we still have to know each other, right? And they start knowing the calls. Even if I change it, they know what it looks like. So they'll start calling it, right? And they'll tell the help defenders to kind of sit in there. Sure. This actually works better if the help defenders do sit in here. So what we do is when it goes here, sometimes we have set calls. We can call it. This one we actually call Cincy, and then if we go Cincy red, because my players know another play called red, they know that we're just adding on to it. This player, as they cut, will clear out to the corner. So now the 2 ends up over here, and usually that 2 might be a really good shooter, right? So you got a great shooter sitting over there, sitting in the corner for hopefully something that happens in a second. So the 1's got the ball. They're usually not this high. They're usually about here. The 1's got the ball. 5's going to come out, pick and roll. As they go, they're going to attack, right? So now you got to make these defenders decide. This defender's usually caught up a little bit talking about the screen. If you can get in here and make these defenders decide, if they come off, you kick to the corner, they can attack. But while all of this is happening, the 4 actually comes up, sets a back screen on 5, and they roll. And almost all the time, we get that little backdoor. Almost all the time. I have tied games on that. We've won a few games like overtime, or usually I don't like to do this because there's a lot of moving parts. You don't like to do it if we're down 2, just because I don't want to put a ton of pressure on someone to, you better make the layup. But if we're tied or something like that, this is the kind of way to, we ain't going to overtime. We're tying this thing up. So, or we're taking the lead and we're getting out of here. So that's kind of the 2 different ones. Both of them. This one can be, and actually what we'll do is with that first lob over the top, we might run that from the very beginning of the game. We might do that right away, so that they're used to seeing it, set them up, so that later on near the end of the game, if we need the screener part, it's there all the time. So when we've done this at the end of games to tie or win, I mean, I'm sure I have, but I can't remember not getting the layup open. So just because, especially if you set it up previously, they're not ready for the second part. So that's the good part. I'm ready for you now, man.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm going to share a second. I want to give some positive feedback to that. I love, of course, there's multiple looks, multiple progressions. So you're taking what the defense gives you or reacting off of what they don't give you. I also like, using familiar plays. I think you mentioned that with your first play about the idea of keeping it simple, and that's just a common theme, especially from coaches with experience like yourself have said, if it's a big moment, tie, down 1, down 2, if you bring in something completely new, your chance of not making it happen increase, whereas when the players are used to it and maybe you're throwing just a small little alteration in it, your success rate is skyrocketing.
Well, and I think too, something that you said, familiarity, and like I think one of your, like you said, your previous guest, Sarah Kulichi, said, I try not to run stuff at the end, especially the end of the game with all the pressure and all those moments going on that they haven't seen before. So a lot of those plays, even if it's, like against the box and 1 or whatever, we'll go through and practice. I usually save the last 5 minutes or so of practice to where we'll set up a situation on the scoreboard, or we'll just draw up an out of bounds play, right? Just so that's the first, so the time in a game in a 30-second timeout, it's not the first time they've ever seen it.
Right.
And actually, it happens more than you think. It happened last year for us. We were at a game. We weren't playing very well. We were better. We should have beat this team. We get ourselves down we actually get down in a hole, take the lead in the 4th by like 10. They come all the way back. They have the lead with 10 seconds left. We're like, what are we doing? And they end up, we tie the game up. They end up throwing the ball out of bounds. So now we have the ball at half court with like 1.3 seconds left. Tie game. Most of the time, everyone's like, oh, we're going to overtime, right? Ironically, 2 days before in practice, we went through an out of bounds from the exact same spot where I told the team, I said, we're going to go through this just in case it ever comes up. 2 days later, it comes up.
Yeah.
And I tell them, hey, remember when I said just in case? Well, now's the just in case. And so we actually ran it, just kind of a, like a deep baseball throw, backdoor lob, where we're setting a couple screens, and we end up getting the bucket at the layup to win the game. So it's one of those things where preparation's huge, even if it's going through it for a few minutes, just so a 30-second timeout and you're scribbling all over is not the first time they've ever seen it, right? Sure. That a lot of things go wrong when you do that.
Absolutely. I love it. And those moments too, where your players are like, oh, we got a good coach.
Well, not just that, they were convinced they were going to win because they're like, oh, we already practiced this. Then, the one kid that I had taking it out, the ball was out of bounds about 10 feet farther than what we practiced. So she looks at me and goes, I didn't throw it that far. I'm like, I guess you're just going to have to chuck it then. And she did. And it was just a dime, like just right on just a dart, right? Perfect layup and a good back screen from, we had 2 screens, basically, one to do the initial one. And then the back girl, who was about 15 feet off of everybody, her job was, you clean up the garbage and anybody sneaks through, clean it up. And she did. And we got a wide open layup, which thank God, because it's in one of those gyms that gets loud and I don't want to be there in overtime. Let's get this win and get out of here.
I love it, man. Well, congrats. I love hearing the success stories. Those are the fun ones.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah, definitely would love to share with you as well. This is a play that I originally saw from the Celtics. The great Brad Stevens is a genius, and his team is obviously incredibly intelligent. Kind of a quick hitter. They did that after timeout from the sideline play. And the extension I made to it was just one additional continuation, because I think we're at the high school level, especially, in the NBA, you can pretty much run a set that gives you one good down screen and be a little misdirected into a down screen. And the guys catch it coming off the screen to professional level. And if they get a foot of space, it's a good shot. Whereas at high school, maybe you have to make sure you have an extra look just to make sure have some more space in case the defense breaks up your first look. So here we go. So we got the 4 taking it out here. 1's going to be up top. 5 is high. 2 is high. 3 is in the corner. So what's going to happen is 4 is going to inbound to the 1, and then the 4 is just going to make their way to clear out space here in the weak side corner. And then on the go, the 1 is going to dribble back this way to create some space. And on that, 2 and the 5 are going to come down and set what looks to be a pretty standard staggered screen for that 3 to come up, looking for that shot probably at the, above the elbow, maybe the 3-point line, depending on the score of the game. So what I like about the changeup of it is this 3 is going to come up off this screen, and instead of coming off that double screen, they're actually going to split it, just coming off of the 2 screen and dive into the rack. So that's the first part. And then the second part is the 2 just, kind of creates a little space. So so now 3 is here, 2 is here. The 2 is going to create some space, maybe jab out to set their man up, set their defender up, and then come off that 5 screen. So they're actually, the way the Celtics run it is that they're looking for this 2, looking for a jumper usually around the top of the key. And at this point, the 1 is over here, so they're looking for that 2, pass the 2 to the top of the key. So if that's open, if it's not broke, don't fix it, take that shot. Or if it is open, rather. If it's not open, however, the continuation I want to add to this is, so the 5 is here now. 2's got let's say the 2 catches the ball at the top of the screen, or top of the key, but their defender is all up in them and they don't have a good shot. Maybe they still try to attack the hoop, which is always a good look, but the defender is a great defender and they're not going anywhere. As a secondary option, I'm going to have that 4 come in, set that screen for that 3, and just play basketball. Have the 3 read that. If the defender is trailing, maybe the 3 just curls it and gets a pass here from the 2. If the defender gets hung up, maybe the 3 shoots out to that corner, straight out there. So really whatever they want is fine, but just it gives that 2 a secondary option if they don't feel like they're going anywhere with the ball and there's still time left in the clock. That 3 coming off, maybe the 4 even sets the screen and seals hard for an entry pass there. Really just, a couple of additional options. So that's what we're going for. I like the original. Just to recap it, we've got the double screen down for the 3. The 3 doesn't take the double cyber screen. He actually splits it after getting screened by the 2. And then the 2 sets up their man, gets that screen off the 5 to catch at the top of the key. 3 continues on, gets a screen from the 4 here at the block for some extra action here. And that's what we got.
Yeah, I think I like it too. It kind of goes into what we were talking about earlier about maybe you run the first part of it and even come off the stagger screen at the beginning of the game. So they're seeing this, they're used to that action, and they're going, okay, they're hitting that jumper at the top. And then you do the curl right off, right? So you kind of set them up. It kind of goes along where I think a lot of that plays into it, right? Where a lot of your plays set up to what's going on. And I don't think player IQ is getting a little better, but definitely players don't think of it like that. But a lot of coaches do, where you have to set things up and almost predict the first quarter of what's going to happen in the fourth quarter, right?
Yes.
So I like that, where they come off the staggered. You do that a couple times, now that defender's going to cheat, do whatever, and the 3 is going to be wide open when they cut through.
I love this. See, that's a chess statement right there. That's not a checker statement. I like that.
Yeah, that's the chess game. That's the checkmate. You just went for it. Sorry. You went after the pawn, and we got the queen down here scoring the bucket. So
yes, yeah. There's I'm not sure if there is, but if not, there needs to be a book. Basketball chess. It's just so many connections.
Hey, you just thought up your next endeavor. There you go. That's the next part. And we all just add pieces. We all add chapters.
Respect. All right, so I like to wrap up every episode with an unscripted question for all of my guests. So 22 years as a coach. That's an incredible amount of time. Great wealth of experience. I'm interested, when you look back on your career, who are some of the people that have really helped shape you as a coach? And what's one or a couple, whatever you feel like sharing, like what are the jewels that you feel like, those are the ones that have really, really stuck with me as a coach that I want to keep on doing for myself and also passing on to other people?
Yeah. So ironically, I started coaching high school basketball when I was just 19. So I didn't have a ton of knowledge and experience as far as coaching, or even from being around a ton of different coaches, right? I was around some pretty good ones during high school. But as far as coaching, when I started coaching, I would go to the Nike coaches clinics. I've seen Brad Stevens do a clinic in person, right? I've actually been fortunate enough to see a couple clinics with Bobby Knight and people like that, where you can always take something, take a little nugget, right? And honestly, one of the best ones I was ever been able to see was Shaka Smart. He is so detail oriented. He was awesome. So things like that, right? That can always help. But some of the most influential ones for me personally have been my comrades, my colleagues now, my opponents that I've played against and coached against. One comes to mind, one of your previous guests, Wade Nakamura, right? At Homestead, presentation everywhere that he's been. That like me, he's a little fiery sometimes, and you get a little into the games. And probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I noticed he's just got such a more calm demeanor. And so I started talking to him about, we talk about a lot of things, but I talked about, why are you so calm now? And what changed? And he was talking about some of the kind of not necessarily clinics, but just kind of through Positive Coaching Alliance, some clinics, I guess, that were kind of going through how to change kind of your mindset a little bit. And so two of the biggest things that he gave me, two of the biggest nuggets were that I've kept the last couple of years that has really changed just kind of my demeanor as far as how I coach and how I interact is the one is to be a tank filler, not a tank drainer, right? And what that kind of means, instead of constantly not tearing down, but constantly bringing down the mood and like, oh, why don't you do this right? Why can't you do this? Why? Hey, that's okay. Let's try this. Let's do this. Let's, try this situation, or constantly giving them positive feedback as opposed to negative all the time. Which I used to be to me, it was more like, you're supposed to do it right. So why didn't you?
Yeah.
And now it's more of, hey, that's okay. This is how we learn, right? So that's a huge one. Be a tank filler, not a tank drainer. Fill the gas tank, don't empty it, right? And the second one, give them something more to remember than just basketball. And that can take on all kinds of meanings, right? But to me, that was more of, especially in high school, these kids, well, and especially the situation we're in now, right, with COVID, is that these kids need to have great experiences and great memories from their time together. Some people, sure, well, coaches, we remember them all, right? We'll remember the wins and losses, but these kids, they're going to remember hanging out with their teammates. They're going to remember, like my players all the time say, we do an end of the year kind of documentary of our, a video documentary of our season. And they say all the time, their favorite moments are the bus rides and when we all went paintballing and stuff like that, as opposed to remember that game. They don't remember the game. Yeah. They remember the times together, right? So really focusing on being more positive, the tank filler, not the tank drainer. And then number 2 was the give them something more to remember than just basketball, right? And I think those are huge.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, I'm hoping that, for anyone that watches this, they take that to heart. And thank you for shouting out the Positive Coaching Alliance, which is a really, really amazing group as well. Tons of awesome stuff on their website. And I can definitely tell by your energy that your team is in good hands. And, I know as of right now, it doesn't look like indoor sports are happening this spring, but who knows? The world is a changing place every day. So if anything does change, I'm really excited for you all. And please keep up your great work as commissioner at the BVAL as well. Thank you so much, Bill. Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. This was awesome.
Definitely, man. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.